small log cabin. She opened the door, stepping over 2 of 3 people who were sleeping soundly. The little boy looked to be about 8 or 9 years old. The others looked at least 30. One woman was lying on the floor. Suddenly, the woman woke up screaming with a frantic look in her eye, scrambling to grab the next person beside her and in turn, knocking over a glass that lies next to her on the floor. The room suddenly came alive as I was placed on a cot in the corner. Shadows from the candlelight flickered and danced on the walls. It was the only way I could see their faces. I concluded that I'd been kidnapped, and I was in a danger that I never imagined. But why did these people look so familiar? Almost as though I'd seen them before. The older woman who'd herded me into the one-room cabin ran to the screaming young woman and held her. It's okay, Benny, my sweet Benny," she said as she rubbed the woman's hair. "It was just another nightmare." The woman, who was still visibly shaken, stuttered through her tears. It wasn't a dream." Her voice trailed off into the distance as she stared at the candlelight. I was reliving. I could see his eyes as we both hung there. I watched the life leave from his eyes, all the while feeling my baby, die inside me. "If you hadn't come when you did, Mima," her voice stopped. The woman began to raise her voice as she finished her tirade. Looking at her, she seemed defeated and alone, even with people surrounding her. The young boy scooted toward me and placed his head in my lap on the floor. His body was trembling from both waking up to such a racket and because the conversation was frightening him. Heck, it was frightening me. I had an urge to run from the building. This Aria they spoke about wasn't me. This wasn't my life. Then it hit me. Last Monday at school, we talked about bondage. We read about slavery. I looked around the room. Everyone's clothes were ragged and worn. I saw dingy overalls on the little boys and long skirts and dresses, with turbans and no shoes worn by the women. I mean, this was merely improbable. How could I be in Birmingham all alone one moment and then end up here? I had to get out of here, whatever trickery this was. Mima, as the young woman had called her, continued rubbing the woman's hair and rocking her. She just kept saying, "My sweet Benny," repeatedly as she rocked. Then the old woman began to hum, softly at first, but then it transitioned to singing. "Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long way from home, a long way from home." Although the lyrics were haunting, her voice was comforting, considering the chaos of it all. The little boy lying on me began to fall back asleep, and Benny's weeping stopped. It was a solemn moment, but all the more confusing for me. I picked up a piece of glass that shattered after Benny woke up violently earlier, and looked at myself in the shatters. I was white, well, not quite white, but I seemed to be lighter in complexion, mixed maybe, with long curly hair that had been placed in a ball. I didn't recognize my face. I just knew none of this could be real.
Wow. That was amazing.
Thank you.
You know what? I see you as a storyteller. I see you on the stage.
No.
With that singing part,
Yeah.
I got emotional with a slave song. But your narrative in the book was imaginative. I mean, it was just it was powerful. That's a good read. I could just tell by that, that's a good read.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring out that emotion. Thank you so much.
Yes, phenomenal. Yeah, we're gonna have to get that book. So that book that she just read was Autoscopy. And how many pages is Autoscopy?
It's 307.
April and Anthony Davis said they're looking forward to reading Autoscopy.
Okay.
It's 300. It's how many pages?
It's 307 pages, and it's actually a part of a trilogy, so it ends on a cliffhanger. So even after all that I just read, it's something even more involved as far as why she's having these visions, and you'll find out at the end when you read it.
There's more to it. Just the beginning. That's phenomenal. I'm so proud of you and your books. And it looked like Choices is a good book as well. Especially for our high school kids, because now they're on that technology, they're not reading as much. But if they get a good book that kind of talks about their experience,
right,
you have to read it. You just have to read that. You have to pick your own books. You know, when people come into the bookstore, I would tell them, they said, well, I'm here to shop for my daughter. Well, where's your daughter?
Yeah.
You have to bring them with you to pick out these books. You have to see what the storyline is within the match, you know. But that was very powerful.
Thank you.
I love your imagination. And like I said, I see you as a future storyteller. Like on the stage with the microphone and the
and that's something that I would be open to doing, you know.
Oh, you would be.
Growing up, I was always a child that wanted to publish a book. I used to, my 5th grade teacher sent me to young authors conferences from like a local university, and we got to meet the authors. And so as a child, I think that's an invaluable experience.
But that makes sense. I see why you're so polished. That makes sense.
I knew right then that it's something that I wanted to do. So.
Oh, yes. I see you as a future storyteller. Just keep up the good work. Tell people how they can get your book, Ashley. Let's show the coach again.
I can also, I'm going to share my screen too so I can show them, but this is the book again. Autoscopy.
Imagine her. She's in the lowest sitting position like the yoga.
And this is the back of the book, kind of mysterious there.
Wow.
And I'll share my screen. So you can order the book at Barnes & Noble. It says the host participant disabled screen sharing.
Oh, hold on.